You've noticed it, haven't you? That quiet withdrawal inside you that no longer feels like depression, but something older, something almost ancient. It doesn't announce itself with panic. It doesn't even demand an explanation. It just hovers at the edge of your awareness, reminding you that the version of you who once found comfort in the noise is already dissolving. Some mornings you wake up and realize your mind has stopped rehearsing who you're supposed to be. You just lie there, blinking at the ceiling, feeling how foreign your old ambitions have become. And even though part of you wants to resuscitate the old drive, another part is finally too tired to pretend. You're not unmotivated. You're unhooking. Unhooking from the unspoken agreements you made to survive in a reality that never felt like home. For so long, you thought you had to keep performing your belonging, keep proving you were reliable, useful, worthy of approval. But something in your nervous system has stopped negotiating. There is no catastrophic event you can point to, no obvious ending you can label as the cause. This is more subtle and more profound, a slow erosion of the scripts that held your identity together. You may notice it when you try to engage in small talk and feel a blankness behind your eyes, or when you stare at your calendar and realize none of it feels relevant anymore. This is what it looks like when your frequency stops resonating with the timeline you once called reality. It's why you feel heavier in places you used to feel inspired, why your memories don't quite fit in your body anymore, why the familiar suddenly tastes like cardboard. It's not because you failed. It's because you've outgrown the version of you that was built to endure. And here you are, standing in the silent hollow between identities, wondering if you're losing yourself or finally returning. You're not lost. You're in the disorienting grace of a deeper remembering. Most people will never talk about this stage because from the outside, it looks like giving up. It looks like laziness, like indifference, like some failure of willpower. But inside, something truer is happening. Your old self, crafted so carefully to fit in, to be palatable, to stay safe, is no longer interested in playing its role. And the mind hates this. It wants to fix it, to label it, to strategize your way back into the familiar grooves of performance. It tells you, you need a new goal. You need more discipline. You need to figure this out before it's too late. But if you listen beneath that anxious narrative, you'll hear something softer, a hum of relief, quiet exhale, because there is a deeper intelligence in you that knows to keep living as you did before would require you to betray yourself all over again. And this time, you can't. You won't. It's not that you've lost your purpose. It's that you're no longer willing to outsource it to expectations. This is the season when your old motivations dissolve, not because you've become apathetic, but because you can no longer convince yourself to care about what never felt alive. This is why everything feels muted, why you can't seem to generate the urgency you once relied on, why the relationships you once worked so hard to maintain feel as though the cord between you has frayed. You're not broken. You're unbinding. Unbinding from timelines that demanded your exhaustion as proof of your devotion. Unbinding from identities that required you to edit yourself to be acceptable. Unbinding from the illusion that you had to earn the right to simply be. And though you may feel empty, this emptiness is not a void to be filled. It is the space where your true frequency is gathering its strength. The space where everything untrue begins to rot and fall away. The space where your soul can finally speak without being drowned out by the noise of who you thought you had to be. This isn't the end. It's the clearing before the next resonance begins. You might notice that certain memories are surfacing now. Fragments of times when you abandoned yourself to stay connected. Moments when you silenced your own knowing so you wouldn't disrupt the story everyone else agreed to believe. These memories aren't here to punish you. They are surfacing because your nervous system is finally safe enough to feel what you couldn't feel back then. You're not regressing. You're integrating. And as these pieces rise, you may feel waves of grief that have no clear origin. You may cry for a past self you judged for not knowing better. You may feel an ache for all the times you pretended to be okay when you were quietly dissolving inside. This is not weakness. It's reclamation. Because every unprocessed moment holds a frequency that stays locked in your body until you have the space and the courage to metabolize it. You're doing that now. Let it move. Let it sting. Let it clear. Because in the emptiness that follows, you will feel something you haven't felt in a long time, a quiet belonging to yourself. No external validation, no performance required. Just the simple, undeniable awareness that you were never broken, only hidden beneath all the survival strategies that once kept you safe. And in that space, you begin to sense a new rhythm. Not the frantic urgency of proving, not the compulsive need to be useful, but something softer. A subtle pulse that feels like home. It doesn't demand action. It doesn't require explanation. It simply hums beneath your awareness, waiting for you to stop trying so hard to become and to simply allow yourself to be. This is the most disorienting part, realizing that you don't have to earn your worth by constantly reinventing yourself, that you don't have to fix anything to be worthy of your own presence, that you don't have to keep reaching for what's already here. When you stop chasing the next version of yourself, an unexpected quietness arrives. And in that quietness, your old patterns start to panic. They whisper, "You're falling behind, you're wasting your potential, you're disappearing." But if you listen closely, you'll feel the difference between the voice of fear and the voice of truth. Fear always sounds urgent. Truth feels like an exhale, because what's dissolving isn't your purpose. It's the compulsion to prove you have one. It's the addiction to constant becoming. It's the reflex to perform clarity before you've even rested in the unknown long enough to discover what's real. So if you feel numb, disconnected, or unmotivated, remember, these are symptoms of energetic detox, not failure. Your body is unlearning the chemistry of survival, the adrenaline, the hypervigilance, the self-surveillance that kept you locked in a cycle of performance. And as you detox, you will feel the discomfort of not having an identity to hide behind. That's not a problem to solve. That's the very evidence that the field is recalibrating itself around you. Because before your life can reshape to fit who you truly are, it must dismantle everything that was built to support who you were pretending to be. This is why your motivation feels absent, why your mind feels blank, why you can't summon the urgency you once relied on to feel important. Your old frequency doesn't power you anymore. And while your mind tries to interpret this as collapse, your soul knows it as coherence. You are returning to your natural rhythm, one that doesn't need external validation to feel worthy, one that doesn't require perpetual striving to feel safe, one that doesn't apologize for resting in the unknown. And though you may not be able to see what's coming next, you can feel it. That quiet resonance building in the spaces you used to fill with noise, that subtle clarity arriving in the places you once abandoned for approval. That truth so simple, you almost missed it. You were never meant to spend your life proving you exist. This is the phase where most people turn back, because the silence grows too vast, the emptiness too unfamiliar, the sense of disconnection too complete. You look around and see others still moving quickly, still building, still achieving, still striving. And you wonder if you've failed, if you've become irrelevant, if you've lost the thread of your life entirely. This is the hidden truth no one taught you. When you stop feeding the distortion, you no longer receive its rewards. You no longer get the dopamine hits of approval. You no longer feel the temporary safety of fitting in. You no longer receive the comfort of being predictable. And in that absence, your nervous system feels exposed, raw, unanchored. This is where the old self tries to rebuild itself. It will whisper that you should go back to the familiar. It will tempt you with the illusion of certainty. It will tell you that any identity, no matter how inauthentic, is safer than no identity at all. But if you can stay here, if you can let the silence be sacred rather than frightening, something remarkable happens. You begin to sense the presence you abandoned to survive. The presence that never needed to be anything other than itself. The presence that doesn't measure worth by productivity. The presence that remembers your original frequency. This is not a performance. It's a homecoming. And it doesn't arrive with a grand revelation. It comes softly, like a memory you can't quite name. A feeling that maybe you were never lost, only covered over by layers of urgency that were never yours. And as you rest here without reaching for resolution, you notice how much space you suddenly have. Space to breathe, space to witness, space to remember. Not who you were expected to be, but who you have always been beneath the conditioning. And that's when the first glimmers of a new frequency appear, not as an idea, but as an unshakable knowing. Nothing real can be lost. Nothing true needs to be forced. Nothing essential requires you to betray yourself to keep it. In this final unfolding, you begin to see that every collapse was an invitation to stop measuring your worth by how much you can carry, to stop defining yourself by how convincingly you can perform certainty, to stop chasing what you never truly wanted just to feel safe in a story that was never yours. This is the quiet revolution you've been waiting for. Not a grand transformation to show the world, but a gentle, resolute refusal to abandon yourself again. You may still feel fragile. You may still feel like you're floating in the in-between without the old anchors or the new coordinates. But if you can stay here, unrushed, undefended, what comes next will find you without effort. Because this isn't about manifesting a better version of the same story. It's about dissolving the story entirely so your life can finally align with what's real. And in that alignment, you won't have to prove anything. You won't have to chase anything. You won't have to keep fracturing yourself to be digestible. Instead, you will simply inhabit your own presence as the most natural thing in the world. Others may not understand. They may still be caught frequencies trying to make sense of a reality that was built on distortion. But you won't need their agreement because you will feel something undeniable in your body, a deep cellular knowing that this emptiness was never a void, but a clearing. That this fatigue was never failure, but recalibration. That this quietness was never a punishment, but the prelude to remembering your original signal. If you find yourself here now, standing in the quiet space between stories, know this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are finally free to stop performing, free to stop explaining, free to let the next frequency arrive in its own time. No rush, no script, no proving, just presence. So take a slow breath. Let this transmission settle into your nervous system, not as something you need to act on, but as a remembrance you can trust. Because you don't have to become anything else. You only have to allow yourself to be here, unmasked, unhurried, undeniable. And when you do, what belongs to you will recognize you by your resonance alone, and it will come.